Before we get started today, make sure you get your tetanus shot because it's going to be raining rust.
This 2006 Jeep XJ came to us via contact in Indiana. Originally, the plan was to remove the front axle and use it with a transfer case to convert our 2000 XJ from 4x2 to 4x4. When the Jeep arrived, we took it out into the field, made some donuts, and thrashed it around a little bit. Being from Indiana, we expected that there would be some rust on the chassis, but after we took a look underneath the Jeep, we parked it, where it has sat for a few years. The boss has been very patient with the green XJ sitting in the yard, but finally reached the point where it has to go. It's time to remove what we can recover and send the rest to the scrapyard.
So the Jeep has 169,000 miles on it, which is actually low mileage for a Cherokee. So if we slide underneath the Jeep, I'll tell you why I don't think that we're going to be able to save this one. This over here is the transfer case cross member, and if you look, it has totally rusted away from the body. You'll see the unibody is gone over here. There's nothing left, and the cross member is actually hanging off the transfer case. So you'll see I don't think that this can be saved. So what I'm going to do is pull the engine, transmission, transfer case out, a couple of components from the front axle, and then I'm going to send this body off to the scrapyard, unfortunately. The engine on this Jeep is actually pretty good. Before I parked it here, I actually drove it, so there's no funny noises, and the oil pressure is good even at warm idle. So I'm going to pull this out and keep it. I might be able to use it on my CJ. So I had planned to start this engine and let you hear it run. Unfortunately, what I found is that the fuel pump must have rusted up. I have disconnected the fuel line over here, and even when cranking the engine, there is no fuel coming out of here. I did able to get it to fire a couple of times by putting a little bit of fuel into the intake there. So it did fire up, but it does not run. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this engine as is. I do know that it does run, and so I'm going to take a chance on that. So those of you who have pulled an engine before knows what needs to happen. I'm going to start with the radiator. I'm going to remove the radiator. I'm going to go ahead and remove the fans, remove the hoses. The AC already has no refrigerant in it, so I don't need to recover any gas out of there. We're going to remove the electrical harnesses, and I'm just going to go through and check that nothing is connected on both sides. I'll slide underneath, remove all of the harnesses on the transmission as well as the drive shafts, and then I'll use the lifting points, probably this one over here and one at the back, and we'll pull the engine out the front. So I'm going to start disconnecting everything that needs to be disconnected. With the winter days being short, it started to get dark, so we're going to have to stop for today. You'll see we've been able to take out the radiators. We've undone some of the electrical harnesses here, removed some of the hoses. So good progress for a quick afternoon's job, but we're going to carry on with this tomorrow. So you can see here we've disconnected all the harnesses on this side. There's nothing more connected over here. AC compressor is disconnected. On this side, power steering is disconnected, all the vacuum hoses have been disconnected, and all the harnesses disconnected, fuel lines disconnected. So we are ready from the front and top side to lift the engine. We now have to get underneath and disconnect drive shafts and anything else from underneath. I've been thinking what the easiest way is going to be to get this cross member out, because I can't get to these bolts. So what I'm actually going to do is try and just undo those 4 bolts and remove this entire mounting plate, and I can take it apart once it's outside the Jeep. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get this cross member out my way so that I can get to the next part that needs to be undone. So we've got the cross member out now. You'll see that this bolt snapped and we unscrewed one. The other 2 were already broken. So this whole cross member was only being held in by 2 bolts, which is a little concerning, but I suppose with all the rust, that's just what you get. Alright, so as we were trying to remove this front drive shaft, we have rounded the heads on these 2 bolts over here. We managed to get the other 2 out, but I can't remove this end cap to get the drive shaft out. So I'm just going to go and grab the cutting torch and cut this torch off over here. This drive shaft is so badly rusted, I won't be able to reuse it in any case. Right, so to remove this gear lever, you have to push down on this metal plate and twist it, and it'll pop out like that. And with that out the way, we can now pull the gear lever out. So if you're struggling with that, just remember it's a push and twist of this metal plate to remove this gear lever. Alright, we've disconnected everything. So all the electricals are disconnected, the drive shafts have been cut off. Over here you'll see I've attached a chain, one over there and the one at the back, so that I've got 3 lifting points which I'm going to do this lift with, and we're going to attach the tractor that we have standing over there, and we'll do the lift with the tractor. Alright, so we just started to lift this engine out, and I noticed the front of the Jeep lifting with the engine, and what I have forgotten to undo are the engine mounts. So I'm going to quickly go ahead and undo the engine mounts. Right, well, taking the engine out didn't go as well as I'd hoped. It got a little bit stuck on the way out. It's rather difficult using the tractor, but there's the engine. It's out. The bottom end on this engine is good, and there is our AX15 transmission. So if we do decide to do an LS swap onto our Jeep CJ, we're going to use this transmission. If not, then we will probably use the bottom end of this one with the head from the CJ, just to save some costs. So there we go, our engine and transmission out. As you can see, this Jeep has a Dana 30 high pinion, which is an improvement over the Dana 30 low pinion. Unfortunately, this axle is really badly rusted, just like the rest of the Jeep, and I won't be able to recover the axle. So what I've decided to do is to remove the side shafts. I have a Dana 30 high pinion that is center disconnect, so there's the extra tube welded in there with a disconnect. I'm going to put a block off plate onto that disconnect and then reuse these side shafts that are solid piece side shafts in that axle housing. In order to do that, what I've decided to do is to undo the spindle nut over here, and then I will cut the C-section off there at the top and the bottom, pull the whole side shaft out together with the brake, and then press the side shaft back out again. I hope that that's going to work, but I don't see any way of undoing any of these bolts at the back here. They are all so badly rusted that I don't have hope of being able to get them out. Alright, first thing is the cotter pin has to come out, so I'm going to bend these tabs open here, try and get this cotter pin as straight as possible before we pull it out. And that one's already broken off there, so I'll try and get that straight and see if it's going to move. Right, we just need to get that end bent flat in there. Go. Take this retaining clip out. The spring should not be trapped underneath there. Just needs to come out too. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is take a wire brush, clean out these threads a little bit, and then put a little bit more PB Blaster on here before I start undoing this nut. And there we go, it spun right off, no issues whatsoever. Remember to take out this washer, because you're going to need to retain this for another install. So there we go, this side's done. I'm going to flip over and do the other side quickly. Right, so we've managed to get this first shaft cut loose, but I'm a little concerned. Look how badly rusted this shaft is. So I don't know if it's going to be worth saving this shaft. I've got it out already, so I'll just remove it and I'll have it for in case. But I think it looks like a new set of chromoly shafts in my future for me. Right, so the last thing I want to remove is this wiring harness. I'm going to take out the computer, the wiring harness, and I'm going to keep that mainly because I need to use some of these connectors, and I found that old wiring harness is rather useful when you need a odd size connector.
With all the parts we needed taken out of the Jeep, we contacted a local scrap hauler who collected the Jeep. It's always sad to see a Jeep on its way to destruction, but the parts we recovered are going to be put to good use. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel to see the parts being used on future episodes.